are the highlights in VTV News. The Cambodian National Assembly inaugurates IT system sponsored by Vietnam. The Vietnam Business Forum 2012 kicked off in Hanoi, aiming to strengthen the dynamism of the Vietnamese economy. And later, let's meet a Frenchman who, after his first visit to Vietnam, has spent 30 years doing charity work in the country. Hello, it's the top of the hour, and you're watching VTV News for the latest updates on the events currently happening here in Vietnam. I'm Đức Trung, coming to you live from Hanoi. In our first story, the National Assembly Chairman Nguyễn Sinh Hùng held talks with his Thai counterpart Somsak Kheasuranant in Bangkok on Monday. The chairman also had a meeting with Thai Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawatra on the same day.
National Assembly Chairman Nguyễn Sinh Hùng began his official visit to Thailand on December 3rd at the invitation of his Thai counterpart. The visit aims to boost and deepen the friendship between the two legislatures and the two countries. He also said that the Vietnam National Assembly supports a plan to upgrade Vietnam-Thailand relations to strategic partnership status in the near future. National Assembly Chairman also met with President of Thai Senate Nikum Wairapanik, affirming that Vietnam cherishes the friendship and multifaceted cooperation with Thailand. National Assembly Chairman was also received by Thai Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawatra. Both sides expressed the hope that Vietnam and Thailand will continue to promote their roles in forging connectivity in ASEAN for peace, development, and mutual benefits.
Now, in our section of economic news, the Cambodian National Assembly has inaugurated a $1 million IT system sponsored by the Vietnamese National Assembly on Monday. The information technology project for the Cambodian National Assembly, sponsored by the Vietnamese National Assembly, kicked off at the end of 2010 and included a hardware infrastructure system, electronic offices, and IT management training courses for Cambodian National Assembly Secretariat. The IT project signifies the close relationship between the two countries and the National Assemblies. Currently, the Vietnamese National Assembly is preparing staff training courses for the Cambodian National Assembly Secretariats in the IT sectors, international law, international relations, and Vietnamese language. Now, also on Monday, the Vietnam Business Forum 2012, an annual event on the sidelines of the consultative group meeting of donors, took place in Hanoi. Many domestic and international enterprises attending the forum expressed their concerns about the debt and retention problems of Vietnamese enterprises. Diệu Trang and Ngọc Diệp have the story.
The Vietnam Business Forum this year occurred when nearly 100,000 enterprises had stopped their operations during 2011-2012 period. This number accounts for 50% of the total number of enterprises that have left the market over the last 20 years. According to the VCCI statistics, the number of businesses that are optimistic about their future growth prospects have decreased down to only 33% instead of 70% in comparison with previous years.
The government has to focus on stabilizing the macroeconomy, creating a transparent business environment for all economic segments. Then businesses will believe in the long-term prospects for the economy.
In general, there's lack of vision, there's lack of delegation, and until that happens, it's going to drag on. I mean, the potential is huge here. Young people, they all want to work hard, but I think government interferes too much.
The majority of experts attending the forum believe that the key point for Vietnam to recover its economic dynamism is to resolve bad debts in the banking sector, which can help to recover the capital market. However, experts stress that resolving bad debts requires the Vietnamese government to confront losses and restructure the whole banking system.
Some of the problems that we highlighted today, I think, are that the quickness at which laws change here and just the ambiguity of their implementation. Certainly the banking sector highlighted a number of issues, the non-performing loan issue that continues to hang over the whole economy really and creates a lack of credit which really stifles growth at the SME level.
The forum was co-organized by the Ministry of Planning and Investment, the World Bank, and the International Finance Corporation. This is the first time Vietnam has participated as co-chair coordinating the forum. Therefore, the issues addressed to support business are expected to deliver more feasible economic incentives for Vietnamese companies.
In other economic news, Vietnam's rice exports in 2013 are predicted to have a lot of problems. Experts suggest that authorities, export entrepreneurs, and farmers should gear up to improve the Vietnamese rice quality. Then Hung reports from the Mekong River Delta provinces.
According to the Vietnam Food Association, in the first quarter of next year, the price of rice will go down with a lack of export markets. Very few rice export contracts have been signed for 2013 so far, while in the same period last year, the business dealers could sign contracts to export 800 to 1 million tons for the new year.
Some of the traditional customers such as Philippines and Indonesia now can produce rice themselves. Therefore, we will import less rice from Vietnam. In addition, there will be more rice export countries participating in the market next year.
The Vietnam Food Association predicted that if there is no change in the variety, the rice price in 2013 will reduce to compete with other rice exporters such as India and Pakistan. Vietnam faces difficulties to compete with other exporters in the low and high quality rice market.
Thailand has the advantage in exporting high-quality rice, while India focuses on the low-quality rice market. Therefore, Vietnam can also pass the mid-rice exports if it continues producing low-quality rice. The sustainable development now is that farmers produce high-quality rice, applying the large-scale farm model and cooperating with entrepreneurs.
According to the rice export entrepreneurs, in 2013, some of the older markets of Vietnam, including China and the Philippines, will reduce their rice imports by 5% to 11%. At the same time, India and Thailand will promote their rice exports. So Vietnam could see a downturn if no change in export management and rice varieties is made.
Now, this Monday, December the 3rd, is the International Day of Persons with Disabilities. To mark this event, several activities have occurred in Hanoi, hosted by the Ministry of Labor, Invalids and Social Affairs, and the Union for Disabled People's Associations, including a job fair for people with disabilities on Sunday. Meanwhile, in Ho Chi Minh City, a festive day for people with disabilities was held. The event was the 13th of its kind and the largest in history. 6,000 participants attended from 14 southern cities and provinces. Vietnam now has more than 6 million people with disabilities, constituting 6.3% of the population. 30% of local people with disabilities are still unemployed. As we just mentioned, finding a job remains a difficult task for people with disabilities. There is always a gap between training people with disabilities and getting a job for them. Statistics show that 40% of people with disabilities in Ho Chi Minh City have a job, but only 25% of them have a stable one. On the occasion of the International Day of Persons with Disabilities, we are going to follow VTV reporter Tieng Anh to Ho Chi Minh City and take a closer look at the difficulties that the community of people with disabilities has to overcome.
It took Phạm Thị Lan 4 years to finally get a job, so she understands very well the difficulties that people with disabilities have to go through during the learning, training and working process. That is why Lan is joining Disability Resource and Development in the city to help young people find a job. Lacking professional skills and communication skills are a few of the factors that hinder people with disabilities to work.
There are some occupational training sources that teach people with disabilities a few skills. However, it was still hard for them to get a job with such training, so they switched to another job to earn a living.
There are a number of short-term training and free courses open for people with disabilities. However, they still don't meet the professional demand from enterprises. Therefore, training for people with disabilities still needs to improve to meet the labor requirements. It's true that there is a gap between training and the real job. So in the near term, it is necessary to make sure that after one is trained, he or she will have a stable job and can earn a living out of it. When a person with disabilities goes to the training center, he or she should receive a proper career consultation. Enterprises can then realize the potential of the employees and assign appropriate jobs. According to the project supporting people with disabilities, until 2015, there are about 250,000 people with disabilities in the labor force. It is expected that more measures to help them find a stable job will be implemented in the future.
Now, before continuing our news bulletin, this is when we take a short break. But first, let's see what we have for you in the later part of the bulletin. Coming up on VTV News, we are going to meet a Frenchman who has spent 30 years in Vietnam doing charity work. And later, let's learn about a new model that a history teacher in Thanh Hóa province has been using to attract his students.
Vietnam's varied charms are boundless. They will awaken your senses to astonishing wonder. From sight to sound, from smell to taste, you will be touched in ways you've never thought possible. Vietnam is so charming, one visit is never enough.
Welcome back to VTV News. Now, a conference themed Technological Revolution and the Development of Industrial Applications, Digital Technology and Content in Vietnam was held in Hanoi on Monday. Media experts from Vietnam and abroad shared their experience aiming to boost digital investment and cooperation in Vietnam. Over the past few years, the dramatic growth of broadband connections, that is, smart devices and new communications technologies, has made Vietnam a strong potential market for digital content consumption. Official statistics show that as of 2012, Vietnam has 31 million internet users, accounting for 34% of the population, while the number of mobile subscriptions has also topped 130 million. Now, in this edition of Vietnam in Close-Up, we are going to take a look at a Vietnamese e-commerce website, Nhỏ Mua. This is a deal of the day website that operates under the Groupon model. The company's internal conflicts drove it into the crisis that not only affects the Nhỏ Mua image and operations, but also lowers consumers' confidence in online transactions in general. In practical terms, the crisis even slowed down the development of e-commerce in Vietnam. VTV reporter Minh Ha has more.
The website was inaccessible. Customers were angered when their vouchers were rejected. The company's headquarters were blockaded by economic police. Internal conflicts occurred. These are images that Nhỏ Mua, one of the leading deal of the day websites in Vietnam, put into public view in the last 2 weeks. Though the Nhỏ Mua website resumed operations after a 4-day shutdown, the company has ruined its image and caused impacts to online businesses in Vietnam in many ways. Crisis group purchasings or nhóm mua in crisis are among headlines or titles that have heated up the online community in the past 2 weeks. The company's crisis has raised questions and lessons on crisis management, legal framework for e-commerce, and impacts on e-commerce in Vietnam.
Nhóm mua was not clever when dealing with the crisis. In such a situation, they could have launched more responsible messages and assure people involved who are their coupon buyers, service providers, investors, public or media agencies, and authorities. However, nhóm mua failed to do it.
Group purchasing, like Groupon, has been one of the 2 most popular online business models in Vietnam in recent years, with more than 1 million users. The 2011 Groupon turnover hit over $35 million. According to Nguyễn Hòa Bình, head of media at the Vietnam E-commerce Association, nhóm mua's crisis has lowered consumers' confidence in the group purchasing model, partly hindering the Vietnamese e-commerce development.
Tôi cho rằng thương mại từ Việt Nam có một cái tiềm năng hết sức to lớn.
I think Vietnam e-commerce has a very large potential when it comes to the country's usage percentage of e-commerce in a comparison to the world. There is a figure that is calculated based on the retail turnover through e-commerce over total turnover of the retail industry of the country. The figures of the US, Japan, and China are 5%, 6%, and 4% respectively. That of Vietnam is only 0.3 to 0.5%. This means there is still a big opportunity for those who take shortcuts using the internet to sell their products to customers domestically and internationally. However, the nhóm mua crisis has slowed down the development of Vietnamese e-commerce.
Của nhóm mua vừa qua thì cũng sẽ góp phần làm chậm lại một chút.
Vietnam has constructed a legal framework for businesses operating in e-commerce. These are the government's 2006 decree on e-commerce management and circulars in 2008 and 2010 to provide implementation guidelines. However, these documents haven't met the rapid development of e-commerce in Vietnam.
In the nhóm mua case, there are relationships among services suppliers, website management unit, and consumers. This is a three-sided relationship. Consumers in this case are badly affected because the current legal framework lacks regulations that can protect their rights.
Chúng tôi nghĩ rằng là sẽ hết sức cần thiết các cái vai trò trung gian.
There should be intermediaries, including consumer rights protection groups, payment services acting as an electric purse, and trading centers to support e-commerce transactions and help protect partners in those transactions.
Quyền lợi của các bên hữu quan trong thương mại điện tử.
Convenient, simple payment procedures and large discounts are factors that attract customers to buy items online in a time of economic crisis. Currently, there are over 30 million internet users in Vietnam. This will surely speed up the development of the country's e-commerce in the coming years. But the development requires more tools and legal regulations in order to protect rights and benefits of participants and enable the sustainable development of e-commerce in Vietnam.
Moving on now to the section of cultural news. A Vietnamese delegation attended the Charity Winter Fair in Moscow last weekend. The fair aims to raise funds for projects in support of local disadvantaged children and elderly people. The event was held by the International Women's Club in Moscow, whose members are the wives of ambassadors and international organization representatives in Moscow. At the fair, Vietnamese participants introduced Vietnamese traditional products, including fine arts, handicrafts, and culinary goods. The Moscow Charity Winter Fair also featured a special performance art program with dances, songs, and musical pieces performed by artists from the Republic of Korea, India, Poland, Ukraine, and Vietnam. All the event's proceedings will be given to the charity fund to assist its more than 50 projects underway in Russia. Now, in other cultural news, after his first visit to Vietnam 30 years ago, a French electrical engineer decided to stay and help the poor and disadvantaged people in Vietnam. The following report provides the details about Alain Dussart, a Frenchman who spent 30 years helping poor people in Vietnam.
30 years ago, Alain Dussart came to Vietnam as an electric engineer, helping doctors at the Pasteur Institute, Ho Chi Minh City, to install the electrical system. Witnessing how Vietnamese doctors worked and helped poor patients with full enthusiasm during the difficult times inspires Alain Dussart.
To be honest, I didn't want to visit Vietnam at first. However, after witnessing a warm family atmosphere, the scenes of Vietnamese people helping each other to get through difficult times touched my heart. That made me want to come back to Vietnam 3 years later with a desire to help these people.
For almost 30 years, the Frenchman launched hundreds of projects, sacrificed time and money for his own family, donating for Vietnam. His projects such as building places for eye surgery, building schools and providing clean water to remote areas are promoted even now.
My wife and my family were all against me at first, since I spent both time and money helping people who are far away from my country. But after visiting Vietnam and witnessing my work, my wife now understands my decision. Now she provides good help and has become one of my most effective partners.
Over his 30-year journey in Vietnam, one of the soulmates who provided help and gave suggestions to Alain Dussart in Vietnam is Mrs. Nguyễn Thị Hội, the former deputy director of the Pasteur Institute in the Ho Chi Minh City. For a foreign person to put so much effort into helping Vietnam inspired me so much in helping my own country as well. Acknowledging all the contributions that Alain Dussart made, on the 4th of December, he will be awarded with the National Volunteer Awards 2012. The award aims to honor the outstanding volunteer achievements for social security and community in Vietnam.
Now, a teacher in Thanh Hoa City of Thanh Hoa Province has created his Garden of Thanh Region History as an educational tool to help with the teaching of history. After a year of usage, this model has proven effective in attracting students and bringing them history knowledge. VTV reporter Vân Anh from Thanh Hoa will give us further details on this story.
In this class of local history today, students and their teacher of class 5D Minh Khai 1 Elementary School go to the Garden of History. Mountain dot relics of ancient Viet people, Ham Rong, where hundreds of planes were shot down, or Dong Sơn, the birthplace of the civilization. Students can see here the knowledge that they've been taught through textbooks.
With this history model, it's easier for me to learn and the knowledge comes to me quickly.
The 300 square meters area near the school's gate is used for this Garden of History. Most of the 9 historic highlights of the Thanh region are presented with the exact artifacts. Only the Ho Citadel and Lam Sơn Revolution use emulators. Each artifact has its own description table.
This model is very lively and vivid. It helped us a lot in the process of teaching because the students become very excited and eager to learn.
This model was the idea of teacher Hoàng Xuân Khánh, headmaster of Minh Khai 1 Elementary School. It simply came from the hope of making the students interested in history, and now it even has impact to the society.
We are very happy that this model can not only help students to learn, but also help other people to know more about history. For example, some old people can see here that the place wedding of Thanh Hoa was used by President Ho Chi Minh to name the Great Square in Hanoi.
After seeing the effectiveness of this model, Khánh and his partners are planning other projects. Students of Minh Khai 1 Elementary School can now learn history when they are playing in the garden, so the history of their homeland comes easily to their hearts.
And next, we are going to take a look at the online news about Vietnam.
The first online news about Vietnam comes from the HinduBusinessLine.com. The website says that as part of the strengthening bilateral economic relations, a business delegation from Industry Body Confederation of Indian Industry, or CII, would embark on a 3-day visit to Vietnam from the 3rd of December. The 14-member team, led by CII Chairman, Governing Board, Executive and Business Coaching Pradeepa K. Mohapatra, would participate in several business meetings, visit industrial units and academic institutions in Vietnam to explore the business opportunities during the mission. According to CII, India is one of the top 10 exporters to Vietnam. Now, according to Saigon Zaifeng, property developers from Japan, Malaysia, and Singapore still like Vietnam's real estate market with interest, despite global difficulties and the whirlwind of the disinvestment in many FDI projects, as they still believe a recovery is imminent. The online newspaper takes a Japanese company, became Tokyo Company Limited, as an example. Became next, Tokyo Company Limited earlier this month broke ground at the site of the Sora Gardens No. 1 apartments. The first project of the joint ventures Tokyo Bingzhong Garden City. Sora Garden 1 is a 24-story building, one of the 3 luxury apartment blocks to be built in the development, which lies 30 kilometers to the north of Ho Chi Minh City. Now, the next news is from VietnamFlash.vn. The newswire reports that the national flag carrier Vietnam Airlines has launched a direct route linking Ho Chi Minh City and Jakarta in Indonesia. Flights are scheduled for every Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. The inaugural flight carrying 143 passengers landed at Soekarno Hatta International Airport, Jakarta, on December 2nd. It is the first direct air link between Vietnam and Indonesia, and the second new international route Vietnam Airlines has offered this year.
Construction began Sunday on a blast furnace that will be part of a steel mill complex built with investment by Formosa Hating Steel Corp, or Formosa Plastic Group, or FPG Steel Venture in Vietnam. This information will release on FocusTaiwan.tw. The website quoted FPG President William Wong as saying that in the primary stage of construction, the company expects to hire around 10,000 Vietnamese workers. VOV News says that stream exports are expected to reach $2.2 billion this year, down 8.3% against the same period in 2011. As of September 2012, stream exports have earned $1.62 billion, 2.9% less than last year's figures. Vasek hopes that stream exports to the US market will earn $127 million in 2012.
And now it's time to check the updated weather forecast for Vietnamese cities and provinces, as well as other cities around the globe. And the weather forecast also wrapped up our news bulletin for this hour. Thank you for being here with us on VTV News, and goodbye for now.